The truth will set you free. But first, it will shatter your illusions. Carl Jung. You stand in the dim corridor of an old Viennese apartment. The wallpaper is yellowed. The air smells faintly of tobacco and ink. Inside, two men sit across a small wooden table. They are not enemies. Not yet. On one side, Sigmund Freud, sharp suit, sharp eyes, sharper mind. On the other, Carl Gustav Jung, tall, Nordic, carrying the weight of ancient myths in his gaze. Between them, a fragile alliance. And between them, a ticking time bomb, truth itself. They built the foundations of modern psychology together. Teacher and student. Father and son in intellect. But the same truth they both sought would eventually rip them apart. Freud believed the mind was a cauldron of repressed desires, primal instincts, and hidden urges. Jung believed it was far more, a labyrinth of symbols, myths, and archetypes stretching beyond the individual into something vast and collective. Freud wanted the truth grounded in biology and sexual drives. Jung wanted the truth to reach into the spiritual and the eternal. One man feared that truth without boundaries would lead to madness. The other feared that truth without depth would lead to emptiness. Both were right. Both were wrong. You, standing here, are caught in the same paradox. You say you want truth. But can you handle it when it strips away the illusions that keep you sane? When it leaves you naked before your own mind? Nietzsche warned, sometimes people don't want to hear the truth because they don't want their illusions destroyed. That's not cowardice. That's survival. Because illusions are not just lies we believe. They are the scaffolding that keeps our inner world from collapsing. Freud would tell you that without confronting your repressed desires, you will never be truly free. Jung would tell you that without connecting to something greater than yourself, you will never be truly whole. But here's the danger: when you see too much truth too quickly, the human mind can break. This is the great question that haunts both history and your own life: should you seek truth at any cost? Or is ignorance, selective, strategic ignorance, a shield you cannot live without? That's the tension I'm putting before you today. And it's not a question for scholars. It's for you. Because you've already tasted truths that made you uneasy. Moments when you saw the mask drop from a loved one's face. Moments when you realized your heroes were deeply flawed. Moments when you looked in the mirror and saw not who you thought you were, but who you really are. Freud and Jung faced that mirror and chose different paths. Their friendship shattered. Their letters turned cold. And the field they once built together split in two, forever changed by the fracture. On Legend's Legacy, we follow stories like this, where the greatest minds in history collide, and in their collision, reveal the hidden machinery of the human soul. Stay until the end, and you'll not only understand why truth destroyed their bond. You'll see how the same forces are working in your own life, right now, without your consent. Because truth is not gentle. Truth is a blade. And whether it sets you free or leaves you bleeding depends on how you hold it. So tell me, when the final words are spoken today, whose vision will you stand with? Freud's restrained, guarded truth? Or Jung's infinite, dangerous truth? Share your thoughts in the comments. And if you want to walk deeper into the minds of the legends who shaped our world, subscribe to Legend's Legacy. You'll need the courage to keep going. Now, let's see why this paradox was never just about them, it's about you. The fracture between Freud and Jung didn't start with an argument. It began with a seed. A small, invisible doubt. Freud once wrote to Jung, "We must make a dogma of our theories, an unshakable bulwark." A strange statement for a man who claimed to seek truth. But there it is, the first shadow. Even Freud feared that pure truth, left unguarded, could dissolve his life's work. This is the root of the problem: truth is not a single light shining in the darkness. It is a storm, and storms tear down the weak walls of the mind. Carl Jung says, people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. Why? Because the human mind is not built to stare into infinity without consequence. Freud's psychology was a fortress. Walls of logic. Moats of biology. Inside, a clear explanation: you are shaped by unconscious desires and childhood wounds. Understand them, and you can live. Jung's psychology was a cathedral. Vaulted ceilings of myth. Windows of dream and symbol. Inside, a vast echo: you are more than flesh, you are the inheritor of ancient archetypes, the collective story of humanity itself. Both fortresses and cathedrals protect. Both inspire. And both can collapse. The hidden problem lies in how the mind processes truth. Neuroscience shows that your brain is wired for survival, not for reality. When new information threatens your core beliefs, the amygdala, the brain's fear center, lights up. It floods your body with stress hormones. It makes you defensive, dismissive, even aggressive. This is the psychological trap: you think you are seeking truth, but you are really seeking confirmation. You crave certainty more than accuracy. And when truth threatens your certainty, you will fight it as if it were a mortal enemy. Freud knew this. He saw patients crumble when their buried traumas surfaced too quickly. Too much revelation, too fast, could trigger breakdowns. So he kept truth on a leash. Measured. Controlled. Jung hated the leash. He believed that transformation demanded stepping into the unknown, even at the risk of collapse. To him, avoiding the deeper truths of the psyche was spiritual suffocation. To Freud, diving into them without caution was psychological suicide. And here's where dark psychology creeps in. Those who understand this fragility, the human inability to handle unfiltered truth, can control you with terrifying ease. They decide which truths you see. They frame them in ways that shape your reality. They drip-feed information to keep you stable, or unstable, depending on their goals. History is full of such manipulation. Propagandists, cult leaders, even corporations, they all understand what Freud understood: give people a truth that comforts them, and they will follow you. Give them a truth that terrifies them, and they will either worship you, or destroy you. This was not just an academic disagreement between two great minds. It was a battle over the very nature of the human soul. Over whether truth should be sought in full, or protected like a dangerous chemical, only handled by the trained and the strong. You live in that same battle now. Your social media feed curates which truths you see. Your culture decides which myths you inherit. Your mind filters what you can bear to know. And yet, part of you senses that beyond the filters, beyond the comforting half-truths, lies something real. Something raw. Something that could change you forever. That's what Freud feared. That's what Jung desired. And until you decide which path you walk, you remain suspended between the two, safe in ignorance, or trembling on the edge of awakening. In the next breath, you'll see what happens when that edge gives way, and the consequences crash down, not just on one man, but on entire societies. Truth doesn't announce its arrival. It slips in quietly. One idea. One doubt. One dream that doesn't fit the life you've built. And then, it begins to spread. Freud and Jung's split was not contained to their personal relationship. It sent shockwaves through the entire world of psychology. Two schools of thought formed. Two realities. And the minds of millions were shaped by which side their teachers, doctors, and cultures chose. This is the first consequence: truth fragments society. Not because people disagree on what truth is, but because truth comes wrapped in values, fears, and interpretations. You don't just accept a fact. You inherit a worldview. Cognitive science calls this confirmation bias. Your mind is not a neutral judge. It is a lawyer. It defends your pre-existing beliefs and attacks anything that threatens them. And the more intelligent you are, the more elaborate your defenses become. Freud saw the mind as a fragile house, built over a basement of repressed drives. He warned that if you smash the floorboards too quickly, the house collapses. Jung countered that refusing to explore that basement meant you'd never know the foundations of your own being. Both perspectives were dangerous. When societies adopt Freud's caution, they create order, but risk stagnation. When they adopt Jung's expansion, they ignite creativity, but flirt with chaos. History gives us examples of both. Think of totalitarian regimes that tightly control knowledge, shielding citizens from uncomfortable truths. They create stability, until the truth finally leaks, and the system implodes. Think of cultural revolutions that throw open the doors to every suppressed idea. They spark transformation, but also unleash forces that burn everything in their path. Your personal life is no different. You have truths you refuse to face because they would shatter the story you tell yourself. The truth about your relationships. The truth about your fears. The truth about what you've become to survive. And yet, refusing to face them doesn't make them disappear. It makes them fester. It gives them power in the shadows. Carl Jung says, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. This is not poetic exaggeration. It is neurological reality. When you avoid a truth, your brain still processes it. It shows up in anxiety, in dreams, in sudden bursts of anger you can't explain. It shapes the choices you make without your awareness. You think you are free, but you are dancing to music you can't hear. This is the second consequence: truth shapes you even when you refuse to see it. The third is the most dangerous. When truth becomes unbearable, people will follow anyone who offers relief. This is how demagogues rise. They don't have to tell you the whole truth, only the parts that soothe your fear or inflame your rage. The rest they hide. And you thank them for it. That is why Freud was terrified of unfiltered truth in unprepared minds. And why Jung believed the only way forward was to prepare the mind by confronting the darkness directly. Here's the uncomfortable part: you are not a spectator to this struggle. You are living it. Every day, you choose which truths to see and which to ignore. Every day, your culture chooses for you. And the longer you avoid the raw, unpolished truth, the more power it gains. Until one day, it breaks through. Not as enlightenment, but as collapse. The next question is not whether truth will find you, it's whether you will be ready when it does. Now, step into the rebellion, the tools, the shifts, and the defiance needed to hold the blade of truth without cutting yourself to pieces. Truth is not handed to you. It is stolen. Wrestled from the hands of fear, bias, and manipulation. Most people never rebel against the comforting lies that keep them docile. They confuse safety with living. But safety without truth is a cage lined with velvet. Freud would tell you to proceed with caution. Test your mind's strength before you expose it to its deepest shadows. Build resilience the way a soldier trains before battle, step by step, until you can face the enemy without breaking. Jung would tell you that the real battle begins the moment you step into the unknown. That you cannot wait until you feel ready, because readiness is an illusion. You prepare by confronting the darkness. The rebellion begins in silence. Not the silence of avoidance, but the silence where you actually listen. To your dreams. To your fears. To the thoughts you bury under distractions. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but your estimate of it." The first tool, then, is perspective. Reframe fear as a signal, not a verdict. Second, embrace the slow unmasking of your illusions. Do not rip them away in one violent act, that's how people shatter. Instead, remove them one by one, and replace each with something stronger, knowledge, self-awareness, discipline. Third, sharpen your mind against deception. Learn to recognize cognitive biases. The mind clings to the familiar and resists contradiction, so you must train yourself to welcome it. Read the arguments of those you disagree with. Test your own beliefs as if you were trying to destroy them. History's rebels did this relentlessly. Galileo, forced to recant, still whispered, and yet it moves. Socrates, condemned to drink poison, refused to betray the truth he lived by. These were not men seeking comfort, they sought clarity, even at the cost of their lives. Dark psychology teaches us that those who control the narrative control the mind. So take back the narrative. Filter your own information. Guard your attention as fiercely as a king guard his throne. And above all, confront your own shadow. Jung's greatest contribution was not the collective unconscious, it was the shadow self. The part of you deny. The impulses you label as, not me. If you cannot see your shadow, others will use it against you. If you integrate it, you become whole, and far harder to manipulate. Freud and Jung's break was a war of methods, but your war is personal. It is fought in the quiet moments when you choose to see clearly instead of comfortably. When you refuse the easy answer. When you catch yourself believing what feels good instead of what is real. This is not a safe path. Truth will cost you friends. It will strip away illusions that once gave you warmth. But what you gain is not comfort, it is sovereignty over your own mind. And once you have that, no one can own you. The closer you walk toward truth, the stranger it becomes. Not brighter. Not softer. Stranger. Freud and Jung both thought they understood it. Both believed they were guiding humanity toward clarity. Yet, in the end, neither man held the whole picture. Because truth is not a single mountain you climb and conquer. It's a shifting landscape. The closer you get, the more it changes beneath your feet. Freud's truth, the disciplined excavation of the unconscious, revealed what we hide from ourselves. Jung's truth, the deep connection to myth, symbol, and collective history, revealed what we share beyond ourselves. And still, both left something out. Here is the dangerous realization: truth is not just about what is real. It is about what you can carry. Too little, and you live in illusion. Too much, and you collapse under the weight. Viktor Frankl, survivor of the camps, wrote, "Those who have a why to live can bear almost any how." This is the missing piece both Freud and Jung, in their own ways, touched but never fully resolved. The human mind can endure the harshest truths, if they are tied to meaning. Meaning transforms truth from a blade that wounds to a sword that defends. Without it, truth becomes a weapon turned inward, hollowing you out from the inside. This is the final paradox: you must seek truth, but not for its own sake. Seek it for the sake of purpose. For the sake of building a life where knowing does not destroy you, but shapes you. Freud's restraint and Jung's daring were two halves of the same survival instinct. One shielded the mind until it was strong enough. The other pushed the mind into growth before it withered. And perhaps, the wisest path lies not in choosing one, but in holding both in tension. Truth will cost you your illusions. It will strip away the comforting stories you tell yourself. It will demand that you see the shadows you've hidden for decades. And yet, if you pair it with meaning, it will also give you the deepest form of freedom a human can have, to live without self-deception. This is not the end of the conversation. It is the beginning of a harder one, with yourself. Ask, how much truth am I ready to carry? What illusions am I willing to let die? What purpose will keep me standing when the last mask falls? Freud's voice echoes across time: being entirely honest with oneself is a good exercise. And Jung answers, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Two men. Two visions. Two roads that begin together, then split. And somewhere between them, your own path waits. So, whose ideology calls to you? Freud's measured, guarded truth? Or Jung's vast, dangerous one? Share your choice in the comments, and why. Not for me, but for yourself. And if you are ready to walk alongside the minds that shape the way we think, to confront the questions most fear to ask, then subscribe to Legend's Legacy. Because the next truth will not wait for you to be ready.